Okay. Oh, it's a genius here. Well, welcome everybody. And tonight we're all stuck in the woods. No, not quite. But it was a fun name game tonight with the question, because I love to hear everybody's imagination of if they actually did get stuck in the woods. And it's very interesting to know that those of us who read paranormal really cannot depend on natural physical things, but we want to have something paranormal that will save us. So what we're going to do tonight, we have two very special guests with us. We have Lynette Eason, and we have, did I say that right? Eason? Okay.
Yes,
and we have Susan May Warren, and they are here to help us escape in wilderness, because both of your books, which I want you to talk about, don't take place in an urban situation necessarily, but they're out there in what we would call the wilderness. You know, anything other than a city is, for some of us in the suburbs, is wilderness. So, and because we have two people, we're going to go back and forth. So I'll ask you, your name first, and then you can answer the question. So Susan, let's start with you. Tell us about Sunrise. So let me see, can you see that? Sunrise.
There it is, Sunrise. Yes, Sunrise is set in Alaska, and it's set in the shadow of Denali, south of Denali National Park. And it's set on a bush pilot ranch. And so the people that are in the book are bush pilots, and it's a really interesting profession. The story is about three brothers who, actually the first of a 3-book series, and it's about these three brothers who come home to help their father run the bush pilot service after his plane goes down. And this first particular book, and each brother is, by the way, ex-military, and they've all served in a different branch of the military. So the first brother, Dodge, is an Air Force pilot, and he comes home to fly airplanes and choppers for their bush pilot service. And he has, of course, a long lost love who he left behind and vowed never to talk to again because of different circumstances. And of course, she's doing some cool stuff up there in Alaska. She's a dog sledder, and she's a guide for a nature service, or the park service out there. And she gets into trouble and needs some help and goes missing and goes searching for a friend. And of course, when she goes missing, who's going to go help her but the guy that can't forget her? So it's a fun story about, of course, there's bad guys. There's bad guys in the woods, as you guys have talked about. And the bad guys in the woods are after her for a particular reason. And so he must not only find her, but also rescue her. But of course, at the end, she also rescues him, because you got to have our strong heroines who always rescue the heroes as well. So it's mutual rescue. And so anyway, it's a really fun story about survival in the woods, but also what it's like to live in Alaska. They're homesteaders, and so they have lived on the land, and we explore that. We explore the whole idea of the endless sunrise that you have there during the summertime. And of course, they are in the darkness, so they're kind of in March, so it's starting to move towards the endless summer that they have, but it's still snow on the ground, but they're starting to get into spring, so that's good. And yeah, it's just a really fun story about what do you do when your long lost love comes back, and you're still in love with him, and you need him, but you're afraid to ask. And so he shows up, and then the sparks start flying. It's a very fun story.
Yeah. Okay, Lynette, tell us about Life Flight. It's also the first in the series, but tell us about it.
Okay, so Life Flight is about a medical flight team. There are 3 of them: Holly Cooper, Penny Carlton, and Raina Price. And the 3 of them work together, help, going to rescues when needed. And this particular story is about Penny. She's the main heroine, and the hero in the story is Holton Satterfield. Holt, he's an FBI agent. So what happens is this flight team has gone to a rescue. They have a 15-year-old patient that was involved in a car wreck. They're life flighting her to the hospital, which is not too far away, but yeah, they have to go over a mountain. And there's a bad storm, lots of reasons why they're flying in that storm, and probably shouldn't be, but lightning strikes, and she has to not crash land the chopper, but it's a hard landing. And she has to go find help because they don't have a satellite phone because she has a very crappy supervisor. So anyway, she sets off on foot through the rain and the storm and the thunder and the lightning to find help. She's trying to get down to an area where she can use her cell phone. And unbeknownst to her, there is a serial killer that has escaped and is loose on that mountain, and which brings in the FBI agent HOLT, who he and Penny knew each other because she was actually part of the crew that rescued him from this serial killer, confrontation that he had with the serial killer before. It's been about a year, 14 months, something like that. So anyway, they all end up in this altercation on top of the mountain, and that's just the first couple of chapters, and it goes from there. So
Where is yours located, Lynette? What state?
mine's located in Asheville, North Carolina, basically.
Okay, so they have a mountain there. Well, we just had
Yeah.
a tornado here on Monday. Was it Monday,
Oh.
everybody? I think. Yes, there was one. Because this is Texas, you know us. We have tornadoes. Yeah, Tuesday. Sorry, Tuesday. I spent 45 minutes in the pantry with my dog, Golden Retriever. There was not
Ow.
enough room. There was not enough room in the pantry for the Golden Retriever and my husband and myself. So we kicked my husband out. He got the powder room because when the sirens,
Priorities,
sirens
right,
go
Sarah?
off-
Priorities.
yes, well, you know, so he had his own powder room. It was okay. We didn't get hit. They got hit. We had just bad storms about a quarter of a mile south of us. So yes, we're used to weather in
Mhm.
Texas.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Lynette, let's start with you with the setting, because I find this very fascinating. I find it fascinating to have romantic suspenses set in a place where it's not a city, because, you know, we all think serial killers mostly are, you know, in cities or urban situations or in the Appalachian Mountain on a trail, which I would not go on an Appalachian trail or hiking at all. I mean, that's too much. But so, you know, I'm a city girl now. I did grow up on a farm, but we did not have serial killers. We just had cows and a pig and a lamb. But anyway, beside that. Okay, so we're back to, so you set yours, there's a mountain, there's a helicopter, there is no communication. What did that, how did that setting kind of appeal to you to set your book there?
Say it again. You flipped out.
The setting,
what?
how did the setting appeal to you to make your story, to put your story there? What was the genesis of it?
Oh, so I know that setting. Like those mountains are very close to where I live, and we often do day trips up to the Asheville Mountains just to drive through it's on the I guess it's the Blue Ridge Parkway, and
Oh,
so I'm
beautiful.
familiar with that area. I don't know. I just decided I wanted to have a helicopter crash on a mountain, and so I picked that area, and it fit. Like I chose the story first, and the opening scene first, and then I picked the setting. And since it was book one in the series, I was able to kind of work with that, and the setting actually kind of changes a little bit. It's on a mountain for a little while, but Asheville is not a small city. I mean, it's fairly large, and they have a police force and their own crime lab and all that kind of stuff. So it was just really in the mountains for that particular scene or couple chapters.
Yeah. Well, that area is very beautiful. I have visited Asheville and the Blue Ridge Mountain, or the Blue Ridge, the drive thing. My daughter
the parkway.
the parkway. My daughter did get married on a mountain 3 years ago down there in Virginia. So, off the Blue Ridge, where it was an hour to go down to get lunch and an hour to come back. Oh yeah.
Was it Pretty Place?
It was up near oh gosh, what is Charlottesville? So the mountains that are between Charlottesville and Lynchburg. Yeah, it's okay. She went. I don't remember the name of it. It's okay because she went to college there and she got engaged there, and for some reason she hauled us all from Texas there to get married.
Okay. Okay.
It was beautiful. Yeah. It was beautiful. It was.
I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was windy and cold and beautiful, and there's lots of stories which we will not go off because we're here to talk about you guys. So Susan, you picked Alaska.
Yes, I did.
Are you from Alaska? Did you go and visit? Did you fall in love with Alaska? What's the story of Alaska in your book, in this series?
Yes, so that's a great question. So I am not from Alaska. However, my third child, my second son, was born in Alaska. So we lived there for about 6 months. We actually lived in Russia for a while. And when I was pregnant with him, we could only fly out to Alaska. And so that's where I went to have him. So I was there for about 6 months, and I lived there from the summer until like midwinter. So I kind of experienced the whole midnight sun and then the dark that, it gets dark at, like 3 p.m, and then it gets light at like 10 in the morning, and then you have like this dusky haze, So that was always intriguing to me. I love Alaska. It's the last frontier. Very, very interesting people that live there, all sorts of different kinds of people. Of course, you have a big city in Alaska. You have Anchorage and also Juneau down south. And so beautiful places to live there, and very varied landscape. And we had a good friend who was a bush pilot. And so I followed his life and career for many years, and I know him. He still lives up there, and he runs a bush pilot service. And so he has amazing stories. So whenever he came to visit us, I would pick his brain, and then, sort of that whole idea sat in my head for a while. And so I've been kind of cultivating this bush pilot family for quite some time, and just wanted to, sort of go ahead and write up their story. So I did tap in a lot to his experience. I did ask him a lot, like, how do you fly a plane if you're out of gas and, and you have to land it and you're 100 miles from the nearest runway? What do you do? I had to, and he's like, well, and he taught me how to do that. But for the most part, Alaska, I also had a lot of friends that lived in Alaska. So I really asked them a lot of questions, but of course I'd been there, so I loved it as well. So it's just a really interesting place. There's a lot of challenges in Alaska. People that live in Alaska, especially homesteaders, are so brave. I just could never do that. I'm from Minnesota, so I don't think, I understand living in darkness for a long period of time, because Minnesota can be kind of bleak in the wintertime, which is why I live in Florida during the wintertime. But in Alaska, it's really bleak because it's so dark, and yet these people are super hardy. So I really have a lot of appreciation for Alaskans, and wanted to write about the different kinds of people that live there.
Okay, and so, that's fascinating, because to me it's fascinating that books are set, you have the hero and the heroine, but you also have the landscape. You also have what is the background, and it's its own character. And both of your books, both of you have really given us, as we read, a sense of that location and the feeling of it, and it comes across. And I think that that's very important. And it's great with storytelling, because it's not just the story of the two people, but it's also the story of where they are and at that time. And Susan, yours is also a second chance romance. So tell us about that.
Oh, I love second chance. I don't know why, but I just always, they like something about it. This is kind of a theme in all of my books, is second chances. I'm a huge fan of second chances. And so I often will, gravitate towards people. I call it a re-romance, people that had love and then broke up for some reason, and then walked away from each other, lived their lives, and then suddenly have a second chance to come together. And, it's really good if they've really, really hurt each other. And so, because then they have a lot of baggage that they have to get over. And so I really created a real doozy of a problem this time. And I thought, oh, how am I going to get out of this? Because it involved all 3 of the brothers, and it was a pretty big thing. And so anyway, that problem kind of carried through to all 3 books, which was really fun. But to me, it's it's the ultimate, think about when we fall in love, then we have a breakup, right? And the breakup is only that much better when it's how do I say this? When we break up, it makes the reunion better. So the reality is that without the breakup, we don't know that we're going to actually stay together because, we have to have those troubled times, right? So for me, if the breakup is something really big, then that coming back together can be something really powerful and beautiful because they've forgiven each other and now they have this stronger bond and they've learned how to, deal with each other's changes and they've learned to appreciate each other and respect each other. And so to me, it's just a great way to just, you get so much more emotion, in my opinion, when you have a re-romance because of the deep depths of pain that you had here. So it's, back at black and white, right? When you have that contrast, deep pain, great joy.
Well, it also makes you feel that this is going to last, so sometimes they have a happy ever after and you wonder, well, what's really after the pages are all finished, what is really going to happen later? It wasn't that strong. So, when you have a second chance that has all the depth of emotion, it's a better, and they've both been burned and they both got over it. It's, it makes a better story. What about you, Lynette?
Well, I kind of did things a little different in this particular story. Just different, not better or worse. Just different. In this particular story, so Penny and Holt had known each other previously. Like I said, she was part of the team that kind of saved his life when he had a confrontation with a serial killer previously. And so he was interested in her, but he was, I think, I can't remember exactly the distance I made them. It was like a 3-hour distance or something. And so they were trying to have kind of a long distance relationship. It wasn't working. It was, but it wasn't. Well, when they wind up back together on the same mountain with the serial killer chasing both of them, it kind of reminded him that how much he really liked her and why he was pursuing her. And it reminded her why it probably wasn't a good idea. But what I did with that, I had Penny, she had secrets. And she had a secret. And he learns one of those secrets when they are finally safe. They're back at base at the hospital, and the secret is revealed that she had never told him, and he was like mad. And but the thing is, he had his own secret, and he really didn't have a right to be upset with her. So a little bit later in the story, when she finds out what his secret is, she's like, wait a minute. And so then they have this big blow up that they don't break up, so to speak, and though they're separated, but they do have this, blow up where that they have to work through, and they both have to separate a little bit to breathe. And she gets kidnapped by the serial killer at that point, and then he's all upset about that. And then, so then they come together in the end. But they're a little bit different. They didn't have like a huge breakup like Susie is talking about, but they had enough conflict that the reader does wonder, how are they going to get past this?
Yeah. Especially since they had like a semi-long distance relationship, because that's something that happens in the real world too. And how does one deal with that? Because that's a big thing for breakups when you're not close together. Okay, so we're going to change a little bit because we talked about the environment, but now we're going to talk about the air equipment that you both chose. One of you has the little bush planes, which are very small. And the other one is a helicopter, which is also small. So we're going to start with Susan. Have you ever flown in one? Have you ever been the pilot of one, or are you just living vicariously through your friends?
No, I have flown in bush planes a lot, and I've never flown one by myself, but I've sat in the side seats. And so I've flown actually in South Carolina and North Carolina and Alaska, and because my husband was, so we graduated from Moody Bible Institute, the Mission Aviation School, and we were trained to to fly small planes. So I was not trained because I wasn't a student there. I put hubby through, but my husband is actually a small aircraft mechanic, which is super helpful because all of my problems with a plane, I just say, honey, what would you do in this situation? And so he is able to then help me. Now he doesn't do that right now. He's the internet security analyst. And so, but he's a whiz at it, and he's at AMP mechanic. So between him and the fact that I've been on many bush planes, and because I know pilots and they can talk me through things, I haven't ever been a pilot, but I have that knowledge that I can kind of pull on and actually, sort of like walk through the scenes with them and say, okay, how do you do this? And let's do exactly that. I don't know that I could actually land a plane, but I feel like I have a lot of head knowledge. And so I would probably say things like, have you slowed the plane down? Did you pull back on the rudder? Did this sort of thing? And I'd probably ask really dumb questions that then somebody would say, please stop talking or we're going to crash. But I would ask them questions based on my small limited knowledge of airplanes. But anyway, so that's how I did it. Now, I do want to say that I had a helicopter book, and I actually took an online class on how to fly a helicopter in order to do my helicopter book. So I'm curious to know what Lynette did for her helicopter book. Throwing the gauntlet down, Lynette.
Yeah. So Lynette, tell us about the helicopter.
Okay, so I have never flown a helicopter. I have never been in a helicopter. However, I have a good friend who not only is my FBI agent consultant, he is also a helicopter pilot.
Oh.
And so, yeah, so, and my cousin, her husband is a life flight, they don't call it life flight, mercy flight, I think is what they call it, in Texas, actually. He is the nurse practitioner that is on their helicopter at the hospital. And so he gave me all my information from that perspective. And my buddy that is the helicopter pilot read through all my chopper scenes and fixed them all. So I feel like they're pretty accurate. And if they're not, it's because of me, not them. So.
Well, I do feel that with both of your books, it feels not only the environment, but also the equipment that you both used. It made, well, of course, I have not been the pilot on either of these. I have flown in a helicopter and a small plane, so I am there. But there wasn't anything jolting, but I'm not an expert. But I had the feeling, I had the sense, I have the sense as I'm reading that this is real. And it was exciting. Okay, and then Susan, you also had a bear.
Yeah, I had a bear. That's right. So I do want to round back to what I just said. There's no rudder on a plane. I have boats on my mind because my husband and I are looking at boats. There are flaps. So just to be clear, everyone who listens to this and goes, what a numbskull. Yes, I had to amend that because there's no rudder. Okay, so there's a tail. Well, there's a tail rudder, but it's different. So anyway, just want to say there's boats in my head. So anyway, all right, grizzlies. All right, so I was trying to figure out. So my heroine was a park ranger guide, and so up north they have a lot of studies that go on, and they study wolves and caribou and bears and all sorts of things. And so she goes out in the woods and guides them, and they have, interestingly enough, foster parents for wounded animals, okay, like wolves or hawks or eagles or caribou or fox or whatever it is, and bears. And so I read about this one family that took in these foster animals, and they had these bears, and they got to know these bears. And the thing is that you don't want to like make them pets because you want to put them back out in the wilderness, right? And so it was this really hard balance between getting that, because they'd raise them from cubs, right? So they would feed them and they took care of them, and so the cubs knew them. And bears have this unique ability to like bond and know people from ages and stuff like that. And so I thought, well, what if this was a bear that they knew? And so I kind of played with that idea a little bit. But I also, that's one of the biggest challenges out in the bush is wild animals. I mean, that is like a thing. Like you go out there and you're like, and so one of my friends, when he was talking about my bush pilot friend, he was talking about you know, they would carry guns with them to scare off the bears. They're not allowed to shoot animals from their planes, just to be clear. So they don't ever shoot an animal from a plane. That's illegal. But they can like scare an animal off or something if they're going to land. And bears will come up and they'll like paw at the plane and all sorts of stuff. So just hearing some of his stories, I thought, how could I incorporate that into this book? And then, you know, kind of merge his stories and this article that I read and, you know, figure out a bear angle in the story. So that's kind of what I did.
Well, a bear. Okay. So,
Yes.
I mean, I only see bears on like YouTube and stuff
Oh.
like that. Bears chasing pigs and things like that. Okay. Yes. Okay. So Lynette, did you have any animals in yours? I can't remember. I don't think so. No, you're animal free.
Animal
I
free.
know. I don't think so.
Not even
No.
a dog.
Yeah,
You don't have a
yeah.
dog. Like,
You
not a
had the
dog?
mountain. You had the mountain. The mountain was its own little thing like that, right? Okay. Well, usually we have time to have fresh facts, which is where we get to understand a little bit more about you guys personally. Well, not personally. You just have to answer these really fast, but we don't have a lot of time tonight, so they're going to be very fun. So, okay, well, they're fun for me. All right. So obviously they're fun for you, right? Okay. So the one that I love the most is, what is the one luxury item you cannot live without?
My laptop.
What did
Lynette,
you
you get to go
My
ahead. What is-
laptop.
Oh, your laptop.
There you
Oh,
go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, that's true. That is really, really true. Okay, this is gonna sound crazy. My lavender cream. I put my lavender cream on every night, and it helps me sleep. And I have to have it.
That's very good.
Ooh.
Oh, I have a niece who the lavender cream really works, but she was from the time she was 5 years old, her mother would put a drop of lavender oil on her forehead to have her go to sleep. And so that whenever my sister, who was her grandmother, babysat for her, she was like, oh, I have to have this lavender oil. If I don't have the lavender oil, the kid will never go to sleep, you know? And I thought that was fascinating. And I just do the lavender spray. But yes, if you run out, it is a requirement. It's a luxury requirement. Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So before we go to the questions from the audience is that I want to know from both of you, how can readers find you online, stay in touch with you, and get more information? We'll start with Susan.
Oh, I'm on SusanMayWarren.com is my website, and so you can always sign up for information there. I'm on Facebook, Susan May Warren Fiction. I'm on Instagram, Susan May Warren Fiction. I'm on Twitter, Susan May Warren Fiction. So,
okay. And Lynette?
I am on Instagram, Lynette Eason, Facebook, Lynette Eason, Pinterest. I don't know. Just Google. My face and my website, of course, LynetteEason.com. And if you are interested, it's where you can sign up for my newsletter as well.
Yes, I was going to say everybody should sign up for their newsletters because I know I get Susan's. I don't know if I get Lynette's, but I will after tonight. And it's fascinating. It's very interesting. And then the other thing, because we have time, is that this is both of your works are book one in a series. So tell us of when book two, because we love this. We need to know, when can we read book two? So tell us the title and when it's going to be available. Lynette, you can go first.
Okay, book two is called Crossfire, and it will be available, I think, August 4th of this year. And book three is Critical Threat, which will be available in January of next year. And book four is August of next year, but I don't have a title yet.
Okay. And Susan?
all right, I'm looking up my title.
She has so many, she just can't remember them.
all right. So, okay, so all three books come out this year because I talked Ravel into this crazy idea to put all three books out in a year, and they said yes, and that was great. So Sunburst is the next one, and it comes out June 7th. Okay, so that's fantastic. And then Sundown is the third one. I do remember the titles. I just don't remember the dates. So I didn't have to like look up the titles. So, but the dates, so that one is November 1st. So June 7th and November 1st. Sundown is November 1st and Sunburst is June 7th. There you go.
Okay. And Susan's
Can I
are,
mention
go ahead.
something real quick? Susie has a publishing company called Sunrise
Oh, yeah.
Publishers, and Kate
Tell that.
Angelo and I have a book that released yesterday
Yes.
called Driving Force, and it is part of my Elite Guardian series. It's kind of a continuation. It would probably be considered book 4, I guess. So if you would like to go check that out, we would love for you to check that out.
Yes, we would. It's a fantastic book. If you love Lynette Eason, her writing, and you love her Elite Guardian series like I did, I would suggest you pick this up because it just picks right up with Elite Guardians and it just continues that story and it's fantastic. So it's really fun.
Okay. And
we
it
have
came
some
out
really good-
yesterday?
It came out yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
So
we'll
Lynette
add
and I have
that.
been seeing a lot of each other recently. We really like it and hang out a lot.
Ah.
Yeah.
But since you asked what was next,
Yes, right.
Well, I want to thank you both for being with us today. And now we're going to take some questions, but we're going to stop the recording. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
thank you.